All right, so this video that we're going to be first watching today is from somebody we've watched on the channel a lot before, somebody who is always very, very kind to us and always acknowledges our presence with a lot of kindness. That is Mintskull. Mintskull made a video talking about Windows of Opportunity. It isn't a perk that deserves to be nerfed, which you guys know my stance on it is I think that Windows of Opportunity is a perk that it better informs gameplay, but it is a very strong perk, but in itself is not a perk that deserves any sort of nerf. The counterpoint to this is that Windows Opportunity inspires autopiloting gameplay by letting survivors know where resources are, but realistically, good survivors know where certain things spawn and, you know, are observing the map as they're running through and are realistically capable of doing this kind of like naturally anyway. So Windows is just kind of like a helper for someone who may not have that level of awareness of the game yet. So that's my take on it. Here's the link to the video there in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be down in the description below. Please support the official release of the video, like and subscribe to Mintskull, because they put a lot of hard work into their videos, and it would be a shame if you did not choose to support the official release of the video because this content is provided by somebody else. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch.
Played DVD recently, there is a high chance you saw at least one survivor using the perk Windows of Opportunity in your matches.
Because that's like a 33% pick rate.
Nightlight.gg,
yeah,
website that tracks
look at how smart I am! 33.04.
rate of perks and killers based on manual input. Windows of Opportunity sits at #1 most used perk in the game by far, with a significant 33.16% usage rate. This statistically means that there is a 1/4 chance.
So a lot of people, well, I want to cover this real quick. A lot of people will say that like Nightlight is not a good source and you shouldn't use it. And Nightlight, because it's all self-reported, it's people submitting their matches. And to that I say, Nightlight falls under the same jurisdiction of integrity that Wikipedia does. Wikipedia, despite the fact that it is edited by people and can be edited by others that aren't like, or, you know, reputable sources, oftentimes they are. Oftentimes they are edited by people who are reputable sources. And it is still a good general idea of what's going on. It's more of like a snapshot, right? You're not going to get the full picture by looking at a Wikipedia article, but it's a good place to start. It's a good place to start. For those of you guys who are in college or in school right now, if you want to use Wikipedia as a source, don't use Wikipedia as a source, but look at what they cited. Look at what they cited while making the Wikipedia article, because there's citations everywhere. Look at their citations and use those. Go see what they cited, where they got the information from. And that'll be like something that's actually usable. But Wikipedia in general is still a good resource, or still a good resource to get a general idea, get an impression of what's going on. So Nightlight is the same way.
That a survivor has this perk individually. This is an absurdly high pick rate, considering that the game has over 100 survivor perks to choose from. But it's true. This is one of the most popular perks in the game right now. So that means that this perk is overpowered, right? Well, the reality is more complicated than that.
Aces, rating me. Yo, Ace Modius, the resident Wesker main themselves. Hello, homie. Thank you so much for the read. I appreciate that. Hey, Neo, welcome in. If you guys don't know who Ace is one of the most talented Wesker mains that I know. Very much appreciate them a lot. And I'm lucky enough to call them a real-life friend, and I appreciate them bunches. So you should follow them, or else you're dead to me and I hate you. Sorry, that was a little extreme. Yeah, go follow them, or else nothing will happen. I'll just be disappointed, and that's worse. Ugh.
Unlike the vast majority of perks in the game, Windows of Opportunity is a purely information perk that does not provide you with any effect that is not achievable.
What a Cold Tower match? I went to Cold Tower like 3
times.
Example, I was over it.
Boons provide a new gameplay mechanic, allowing you to create safe zones by interacting with a totem, or exhaustion perks like Life, which give you a speed boost that is not achievable in any other way without equipping the perks. But Windows of Opportunity only shows you the things that are already present.
Exactly. They only show you stuff that's already there. You theoretically can do everything you can do with Windows. Does not give you any extra ability besides your own stupidity, like, removed, right? Like your own inability to perceive something that's right there. Right? I think the secret thing that actually makes Windows really good is that if a survivor, if you're not in 4-man, and somebody went through and wasted a bunch of pallets and created a dead zone, you can see that early. That's the only thing. That's the thing I will say Windows is really, really good for. Is it allows you to spot dead zones early that other survivors have created. That's about the only thing that makes it like actually like a really strong perk. Because realistically, like Mintskull saying, if you can perceive pallets as you're running by them and you come here later, you know where they are. Unless your memory's the memory of a goldfish.
Whether you have this perk equipped or not, the maps will have a similar layout and will have some specific windows that always spawn in preset locations. So why is this perk, which looks like it was made for new players to get used to maps, so powerful? The real reason why, and why so many people are running it, is because it actually provides significant important information that is on the level of the best competitive tournament teams with just a perk slot. Basically, what I am trying to say is that with Windows of Opportunity, it makes the entire map into an asset that you can use as an advantage over the killer.
Which I will say again, has always been a thing. This is what this perk has always done. Always done. Always done. So, like, I don't know why people are just now be like, wow! Like, this perk's always done this. Why people are just suddenly on the train, but, you know. Hate that Tools and Torment addition to Macmillan. I prefer New Shelter to Old Shelter. Old Shelter was, like, way too dead. Way too dead. It was so terrible. But now it's a little bit more balanced. It's still killer-sided, but it's a little bit more balanced.
Which is especially powerful for average and casual survivors. One thing that a lot of survivors do not do during their gameplay is to plan ahead before they start a chase, or to chain very strong loops. Instead, many survivors only focus on the current structure during the chase, or they start thinking of chaining loops once they get hit. For example, in this situation, I have two potential pallet spawns next to me, one on the left with a visible pallet, and two boulders that block my vision completely. Currently, I am unaware of what is located behind those two rocks, and if it's a smart choice, to start running on that direction in case the killer is coming. With Windows of Opportunity, however, I can see that there is a massive dead zone with no windows or pallets on the right, and my only safe option is to go to the left.
That was smart to do that with Fearmonger. That was a good way to show that.
This is information that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have Windows of Opportunity, unless I wasted my time by scouting both sides.
Yeah, like as if you scouted ahead, which a lot of people do.
I know that even if the killer is coming from my left side, the best option is still the left because there's nothing on the right. On this other example, I am repairing a generator in a corner of a map. Thanks to Windows of Opportunity, I can see that my left side is completely empty of pallets and windows, and my only safe choice is the right, which includes a single window leading to an easy chain to the killer shack. Imagine that in both cases, I didn't have the perk. An average survivor does not have the safety of knowing where a pallet is generated unless they scout the area beforehand. And this is not a thing that many players do. They simply go to the first generator they see.
Okay, like a lot of bad players, yes, but like even a moderate player looks around first.
You don't have to scout or waste your time at all. You immediately know what is the safest route to take, and you can even scout the map while repairing a generator and plan ahead. So in other words, not only you are skipping the entirety of memorizing map and tile generation, which takes a lot of game knowledge and experience, most importantly, you also completely remove the RNG aspect of map generations. Even if you perfectly know the layout of each map by memory, you still cannot guarantee what tiles will be generated in each spot, or in which side the windows and pallets will appear. Remember the example of me repairing in the corner of the swamp in a completely different match, but on the same map, suddenly it's a completely different situation. Yep. This is one of the reasons why I personally disagree with Oddsdarva's balance pyramid, and I think RNG should be below experience, since RNG determines the amount
if you guys are wondering how I feel about this, I think resources top, and then experience, and then like RNG.
resources and how strong they are in a map. Windows of Opportunity skips the RNG part of the match and guarantees that you will never run into a dead zone as long as you use this perk to the full potential. And this is why it's so strong, because RNG is one of the most influential parts of a DBD match. A lot of times, killers get easy downs against survivors because they accidentally or while in a panic state run into a dead zone with no pallets, windows, or any loopable tile, which is basically a fast down for any killer. This happens.
But and that's only part of it, though, right? That's only part of it too, because sometimes when there's just like a natural dead zone, even if like you have windows, you're just kind of aware that you're screwed. You know, it doesn't like this situation does happen a lot where it's like, you know, they just kind of run haphazardly into nothing. But it's not consistent, I wouldn't say.
When survivors have no idea where to go, but Windows literally tells you which parts of the map are safe and which parts aren't. And this is not even including the fact that as long as you are a solo player, even with all the map knowledge in the world, you still cannot know for a fact what palette has been used or not.
This Kate fit is a choice.
With friends and someone ends up
I'm
using
not
the
gonna use a
shack palette,
positive adjective for
you
that.
can communicate this information to everyone on your Discord call and they will know that the shack is no longer safe. However, if you are a solo player, you might run to the shack thinking that the god palette is still there and end up with a sad surprise when you discover that the Meg has already used it.
Yeah, this is how it is
actually
really good.
In this example, there is only one gen left, so you would assume that the shack palette is gone, yet the shack palette has not been used, which means I can safely go there thanks to Windows of Opportunity. Information is one of the strongest assets in Dead by Daylight. This is one example of how strong information on Discord can be in a match. In this situation against Blight, I am running straight because I know to my left there are no useful tiles. However, I can see an injured Claudette coming to me thanks to Kindred, and this is when I decide to go to the left instead and take a hit. If I ran straight, the Blight would have downed Claudette, which leaves our team in an awkward position. This is something that is normally exclusive to Survive with Friends in a Discord call, but I did it completely solo thanks to Windows of Opportunity and Kindred combined, which are both very good solo survivor perks. This is the main reason why you won't see these perks in competitive play, because the information is already there and it's given through comms. Windows of Opportunity simply shows that the game is fundamentally not designed with good survivors with extreme communication in mind. And
I knew it was happening the moment they went to vault that.
Of survivors are simply solo casuals or average, or they don't want to admit that they are below average. The moment the vast majority of survivors know how to loop and play, it's a survivor-sided game unless the killer decides to camp, slug, 3gen, or tunnel, and the survivors make the mistake of being altruistic. And the funniest part
I mean, the game is already survivor-sided still. I still think that 4-man Swift is still the strongest thing in the game. It's just that the gap between that and killer is way less. The gap is less, but I still think 4-man and comms is still the best thing in the game.
Does not give you skill. It's not a perk like Head On, Death Heart, or Sprint Burst, where you get an exclusive effect to the perk which can increase your skill ceiling. Windows of Opportunity simply allows you to use your inherent looping skills to the max by removing the RNG aspect of Dead by Daylight. If you are a bad survivor, this perk will not make you suddenly a god. It will simply help you significantly into preventing big mistakes which lead to the killer snowballing a match into a 4K. Now, if you are a good survivor, you still get the benefit of removing the random factor of not knowing what type of generation there is in a specific map or what resources have been used yet.
What's happening over there?
If you are competitive, a top level survivor, this perk is not that useful because the information is already present in the map and via comms.
What is happening?
Windows of Opportunity massively benefits players that are already familiar with the game, and it benefits less to those who have absurd amounts of hours invested. Before,
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I was a disbeliever of how good this perk was, and one day, I decided to give it a try, and it completely changed my survivor gameplay, whereas before, if I got downed by a kill...
So, for example, I kind of want to, I do kind of want to point this out. Oh my god, I'm here. I was watching I had a Ace up in the other tab, and I just came over, and I'm here. So if we look at this, right? We look at the same page he pulled up, where it's like, look at all the perks that are how powerful they are. Adrenaline is more powerful than Windows. Lithe, more powerful than Windows. Sprint Burst, more powerful than Windows. Prove, more powerful than Windows. Resilience, maybe they're similar. Unbreakable, more powerful than Windows. Kindred, kind of doing something relatively similar just with the hook situation. So like, out of like even the top 5 perks that are used, it's definitely the weakest. If we go to top 10, it's close to the bottom. I wouldn't even say off the record's better than not Windows. Like, you really go like top 10, like even then, it's near the bottom. Realistically, it's not that strong of a perk. It's like a solid A tier perk. Very solid A tier perk. But it's not like crazy good. That's not like the like we were just pointing out, like Prove, Lithe, Sprint Burst, stuff like that. Like it's not at that level. No, Sprint Burst is way better than Windows Opportunity. What do you mean? Way better. You just free speed and distance? Especially if you can 99? Like, brother. One of the strongest things you can have in the game.
I was blaming the RNG of the map or my teammates for spending resources because I am a sore loser. Now, if I get downed in a chase, it was fully my fault and my inability to correctly mind game the killers. So overall, does it need a nerf? The survivor versus killer mentality has always been a big problem in the community, but something I noticed from the Windows of Opportunity debates is that this is the perk that survivor mains will defend the most out of all the perks in the game, to the point that the idea of this perk being nerfed is taken as a massive joke. It's like there is a survivor main agreement to bully and ridicule anyone that even hints at nerfing this perk because they know how powerful
I mean, it's silly.
it is.
It's silly though. You know? I don't think like I get like you can't not specifically this situation. I feel like that's just a survivor versus killer thing that happens in the game in general. And this is just another conversation that's fallen into this situation. But like it's because it's silly. It's dumb, right? You know, like if you say something silly and dumb, people are gonna be like, "Hey, that's silly and dumb." You know, I think they have a leg to stand on here.
Is in reality, and even if I am mostly a killer main, I have to agree that this perk does not need a nerf. So let me explain why. First of all, the only way to nerf a perk like this would be to completely butcher it to the point where it's not usable anymore. And this is, in my personal opinion, a stupid way to balance a game. The only options to nerf
I think one of the interesting things that I always see, like when I hear people like that hate Windows Opportunity, is that it lets survivors autopilot loops, but in the same sense, in like the same breath of conversation, usually the killer is implying that they're really, really good. And if the survivor didn't have Windows, they would be fine. But, like, does that not, like... Can't those thoughts not coexist? If you're so good, shouldn't somebody just play on autopilot and not beat you? Or what are you implying there? Because you're saying all they had to do was put it into autopilot and they suddenly beat you? I thought, like, you were gonna beat them because you're a good killer. Are you implying that the only reason you can catch them is because they're not paying attention? And that you actually don't have good skills when it comes to quickly downing survivors? Is that what you're implying? Because I don't think that's what you mean to be implying when you say that, but that's what I hear when you're like, oh, it just lets them autopilot. It's like, you can't beat somebody autopiloting? Yeah, there's some really busted setups that spawn on a lot of maps. You saw my map tier list, Fractured, Garnet Joy, Batum. Plenty of maps that just spawn just really dumb busted setups. That's not your fault. But like, an average person running Windows and their average matches, not always going to those maps, you're struggling with that because they just know where the setups are. You don't know how to play those setups. or circumvent those setups the best way you can. Kind of outing yourself a little bit, it sounds like.
Windows is to reduce the range of this perk, which would make it significantly worse, or add a cooldown to it, which would make the perk useless for chaining loops, the most important part of a chase. Both options end up turning the perk into trash territory. The second thing that this perk has compared to the vast majority of survivor perks
is
that
this
has a very easy and strong counter to it, which is called the blindness status effect.
Yep.
Nowadays,
which is applied by almost every killer.
An add-on that is able to apply blindness to the survivors in some capacity.
And they're almost always cheap.
And some of the add-ons are so absurd and easy to apply
and
that it makes it impossible.
A full minute. That's a lot. That's a full minute. That's gonna start messing with hook saves too. A full minute. That's a long time to have just 0 order reading.
To claim that this perk has 0 counter from the killer side. You don't even have to spend a perk slot into countering this entire perk. You have 2 add-on slots. One can be used with a blindness add-on that turns 1 perk slot of the survivors into completely useless. And finally, and most importantly, nerfing this perk achieves nothing. The top level survivors will still play as frustrating as they can now, and it will simply make the average player that depended on windows of opportunity worse, which in turn would make the game more miserable to play for a considerable high percentage of survivor players, while leaving the fundamental problems of the game intact. The kill rate for a majority of characters is already at an all-time high.
Yep.
And making that higher would
and those stats are outdated. Those stats are really outdated. Those stats were rising at the time, almost a year ago. Those stats were climbing at the time, almost a year ago. So who knows how high they are now?
Solve anything. So what is the fundamental problem of the game? I said it many times. Various big content creators said it too. The maps and luck. The map design of Dead by Daylight and the RNG nature of the game make it so that it's impossible to make it a balanced competitive game, since every single match will have different resources than the others. Sometimes you might get entire areas with nothing useful in them, and in other matches you might get extremely cracked loops that you can chain with no skill. The game is designed in such a way that you can simply pre-draw pallets against most killers and keep holding W, and most of the cast is unable to do anything about it. The problem is not windows of opportunity. This perk simply showcases how
the map design,
is fundamentally, and how much it depends on RNG in order to play safe. The game was originally viewed as a casual horror game. This was the type of players that the devs were targeting. The ones that don't even look
that walking animation is so awkward,
or that run in a straight line with no planning at all. But just like with any game that is fun, players will start to optimize it as if it were a competitive game. And whether you disagree or not with Dead by Daylight being a competitive game, as long as there are official behavior endorsed tournaments available.
I think my thing is, like, I was thinking about this the other day, and I almost made a full commentary video of this, is like, I look at the design of Dead by Daylight, and I almost look back and I don't even understand how it was a party game at any point. Like, when I play like Texas Chainsaw, when I played that demo for that, their test that they did, like I'm like, okay, well, like on the Survivor side, I'm doing little mini games, and I'm trying to get out one of 4 gates, and it's up to me to choose one of the 4 gates. And I'm trying to sneak away from the killer, you know, like. It was actually like, yeah, like there are actual hide and seek elements, which is something we all played as kids. Like, even if they did catch you, it wasn't end all be all. You could just like dive down a well and smack your back, and you're like, oh, you know, like the game is there was actually stuff to do. Killer, like depending on your power, you had to do different things, but hunting down someone was mostly fun. Using your special abilities to either block gates or hunt down people. I don't know, I just like it's like that actually felt like a party game where things didn't matter. This from the beginning, I've never seen, like, even when I started playing it in 2020, Like I always like kind of felt the sweatiness coming through a lot. So it's like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the format of the game really felt like it was ever going to completely stay casual. Just keep stabbing Bubo with a little bone piece? No. I didn't get to do that, no. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like DBD, its framework kind of like lent itself to ending up this way at some point. No, that's what I'm saying. The opposite, Uzi. It's not the people that dictate it. You're putting the responsibility on people. People will always sweat. People will always find a way to try to optimize the fun out of anything. It's not on the people, and that's the take that ruins everything in most games. Is it's on the people. We should just have a big town hall meeting and just like scold everybody for the way they play. That's not gonna happen. It's not possible. Like, you're not gonna be able to get like tens of thousands of players in a town hall meeting and tell them to all behave. That is not realistic. People need to let go of that pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
On it where you can compete, the game is objectively a competitive game. And this is where a big subjective part of the video comes in. What is fun and what isn't fun? For some players, the fun part of DBD is to simply have stupid matches where you are interacting with a funny way with other players, or for example play an entire match with the Huntress only caring about hitting nasty shots to share with the community, creating memorable moments. But this is not a role-playing game, so for the vast majority of players, the fun part is winning, and according to the devs, the win condition in the game is to either escape or to sacrifice. So as a killer, you have zero incentive to not run the best slowdown.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. Either you do the gens or you kill the survivor as fast as possible on either side. Like literally there is nothing else to do that's like fun. There's nothing like, there's no mini games, there's no like alternative objectives, there's no like, there is only me versus you, and that's it. That's all. My objective versus your objective. That's all DBD is. So that's what I'm talking about when I say like, I'm not surprised DBD ended up this way and where it became a more sweaty experience, because where's the party aspect of the game? Where is it? Where's the mess around aspect of the game? Flashlight saves, that's about it. Even those people get dunked on. We were seeing that today. Where's the fun part of the game? Where's the mess around part of the game? It's my objective versus your objective, and always has been. It's just people wisened up to it. There's nothing else to do.
Most cracked add-ons every single match, which is also a problem now that the Blood Web is so cheap and Prestige does not reset your inventory anymore. And for survivors, repairing generators is not the fun part unless you are a weirdo.
People say this, unironically.
Long chases where they mind game the killers and stay alive. And windows of opportunity greatly helps with the fun part of the game for a lot of survivors, especially those that maybe don't have enough time to devote to a single game like a competitive Survive with Friends team can. What the killer community should do, in my personal opinion, is to incentivize the devs to stop making dog water maps that are artistically a 10 out of 10, but gameplay wise, they are worse than the way I pronounce DDoS attacks.
DDoS.
Windows solves nothing.
Yes, that's revolution attacks.
Survivors will eventually reach a point where they learn how to chain loops more, and they learn how busted the maps are in reality. And like previously stated, nerfing Windows does not change in any way how pro survivors play the game, as they still have Discord, so they know what palettes have been used, and they still know the map layout because of their game knowledge, so they know how to loop. When the gut reaction of the vast majority of the community to the fact that the latest 4 maps to be released will have a boosted probability to appear is negative, I think it's safe to say that maps are one of the worst parts of the game, and windows of opportunity is not a problem. Thank you for watching.
I agree.
And let me know what you think in the comments. Have a nice day.
I completely agree. I do not think Windows. I think Windows just highlights problems with maps that pre-exist and that people can take advantage of either way. Realistically, you should be directing your. If you're frustrated with Windows, you should be directing your hatred at map design, not at windows of opportunity. You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. Respectfully, you got the wrong guy. You got the right. You sensed that crime was in progress, but you got the wrong perp. You got the wrong perpetrator. Look at Prove Thyself and said, how is Prove the way it's been in this game for as long as it has? I don't understand that. I do not understand that. Prove just like all these other perks out here that aren't that bad, and Prove's just like, I'm still the way I am. Ever. Never. Like, why? I'll never know. But yeah, I agree. Windows is not the problem. Just map design is. And they're already starting to rework maps to be more balanced. So hopefully that pans out. They're doing Fractured and Rancid, even though I think Rancid is relatively balanced. I think it's a pretty fairly side, not erring on either side kind of map. But we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. But yeah. Oh yeah.